I'm halfway across the George Washington Bridge when my phone buzzes with the email I've been obsessively refreshing for since, January. Subject, congratulations, lead product designer. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. For a second, I actually consider pulling over just so I can scream properly, but the traffic behind me has all the patience of a toddler with low blood sugar, so I wait for the next red light on the New Jersey side. When it comes, I flick my hazards on and tap the email open, heart pounding. We are pleased to formally offer you the position of lead product designer on the Horizon Suite team. There it is. The promotion. The title I've been quietly killing myself for at Stratus Labs. Months of 60-hour weeks, user interviews that blurred into each other, late nights arguing about interaction patterns and error states and accessibility, endless decks and stakeholder reviews. All of it suddenly condenses into this one clean line of text. Lead product designer. I let out a laugh that sounds a little unhinged in the quiet of my 10-year-old Corolla. Holy shit, I whisper to no one. I did it. The irony isn't lost on me. My day job is designing seamless experiences for other people, and my own life has felt like trying to use a glitchy beta build for years. The honk behind me is long and accusatory. I tap the gas, merge back into traffic, and keep driving. I'm not heading to my apartment in Hoboken. Not yet. I told my mom I'd stop by first. Just for an hour, Mia, she'd said on the phone, voice bubbling with excitement when I told her about the final client presentation. Your father made chili, and I baked that cornbread you like. We want to hear everything. My parents' house is 40 minutes from the city in a suburb that realtors describe as up and coming, and everyone who lives there describes as still pretending it's the 90s. Little split levels and colonials with chain link fences and plastic tricycles fossilized in front yards. I grew up there, saved every penny from part-time jobs there, dreamed of leaving every single day there. And yet, the closer I get, the tighter something in my chest pulls. I tell myself it's just fatigue. 6 days in Seattle with a client, back-to-back workshops, a red-eye home. My body is one long ache in a slightly wrinkled navy dress and a blazer that smells like airplane. My under-eye concealer is doing overtime. My hair, which I optimistically straightened at 4 a.m. in my hotel bathroom, is rebelling in soft waves around my shoulders. But underneath the physical exhaustion, there's this humming, bright thread of pride. We did it. The Horizon project, this giant, messy, complicated redesign for a major healthcare platform, was my baby. My manager, Carla, put me forward as design lead last year. You think in systems, she'd said, tapping my portfolio, and you don't fold under pressure. This is going to make your career, Mia. She was right. The client signed off an hour before I left their downtown Seattle office, exhausted and high on too much coffee and not enough food. We hugged. There was a champagne bottle hidden somewhere, I'm pretty sure, but I begged off the celebration and grabbed a cab to the airport, craving my own shower and my own bed. And, okay, a little parental validation. It's pathetic that I still want that at 31, but here we are. I turn onto Ashwood Lane, the street where I scraped my knees, learning to ride a bike and snuck out to study under the lone street lamp because the house was always too loud. The maples lining the sidewalk are taller now, their leaves a tired late summer green. My parents' house sits halfway down, a beige split level with brown shutters and a driveway that always looks slightly crooked in photos. The driveway is empty. Mom's Subaru isn't there, probably inside the garage, and Dad's rusty blue pickup is out front at the curb. Someone's trimmed the hedges finally. The lawn is a little less jungle and a little more someone cares. I pull in, park, and kill the engine. For a second, I just sit there, hands still on the steering wheel, breathing. I want this to be a good visit. I want to tell them about the promotion and have my mom's eyes light up genuinely instead of drifting over my shoulder toward my sister. I want my dad to say he's proud and not follow it immediately with, you know who else is doing something big? My black flats pinch as I step out, my backpack digging into one sore shoulder. The late afternoon sun throws warm amber light across the street, making everything look a little nostalgic, like a filter named Childhood or 1997. I swipe a thumb under each eye to make sure my eyeliner hasn't migrated south and smooth down my dress. I look like what I am, a woman who just landed the biggest win of her career. I tuck my phone into my blazer pocket, grab my small suitcase from the trunk, and head for the side door near the garage. My palm automatically goes to my backpack zipper, fingers brushing over the familiar rectangular outline inside. The key to my studio is my one unreasonable love. 2 years ago, I found the listing on some sketchy local site. Detached backyard workshop, needs work, cheap. It was a crumbling little building behind a tiny house in an older neighborhood 10 minutes from my apartment. The landlord wanted extra cash and didn't really care what I did with it. It smelled like dust, an old paint, and something animal when I first walked in, but it had good bones and high ceilings. I saw it immediately. My own creative space. My own thing. I signed the lease on the spot. For 2 years, every extra freelance project, every little bonus from work, every I guess I don't really need to go out weekend went into that space. Into insulation and drywall and electrical work. Into a big drafting table and racks of tools. Into a high-end 3D printer and a pair of industrial sewing machines. It's where I tinker with physical prototypes when I'm sick of screens, where I taught myself basic woodworking from YouTube, where I built the first functional mock-ups of the accessibility hardware that got me noticed by Stratos in the first place. It's where I feel most like myself. The key has lived in my wallet for 2 years. It felt wrong to leave it in my apartment for a week while I was in Seattle, with the cheap front door lock and the noisy neighbors. So before I left for the airport, I drove out here, hugged my parents in the doorway, tucked the key into a little ceramic dish on the kitchen counter, and said, "Hey, can you keep an eye on this for me? Just in case." Mom had smiled and patted my hand. "Of course, honey." My stomach twists now, out of nowhere. Stop it, I tell myself. Don't borrow anxiety from the future. One family dinner, then your own bed. I shift my suitcase to my left hand and press the button on the old plastic garage remote that hangs from the hook beside the side door. The motor grinds to life, rattling the thin metal door upwards. The familiar clanking sound echoes off the driveway. The door lifts. The smell hits me first. Not the usual mix of motor oil and lawn fertilizer and Dad's old sneakers. Just empty air, dust, echo. The garage yawns open, a rectangular mouth of nothing. The spot where my studio workbench sat, my backup, my overflow space, against the right wall is bare. The shelving unit where I kept spare materials and off-season tools is gone. The corner where my custom-built standing desk used to be has nothing but a dark square on the concrete, the shadow of something that lived there for years. My suitcase handle slides out of my fingers and thuds to the ground. My hand is suddenly numb. No. The word slams against my ribs like a trapped bird. I step forward, clumsy, heels scraping against the concrete. My breath is in pieces. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe Dad finally cleaned the garage properly and moved things around. Maybe they put everything in the basement. Just because the big orange tool chest is gone doesn't mean... My gaze flicks to the far wall, where my old pegboard used to hang, my silhouetted tools like a weirdly comforting murder scene. Bare drywall stares back at me. The remote slips from my fingers and clatters onto the floor. The sound too sharp, too final. My heart is beating so fast it feels like static in my ears. I spin in place, eyes darting from one corner to another, as if my entire studio setup might be hiding behind the lawnmower. Nothing. The only things left are Dad's mower, a cracked plastic snow shovel, and 2 mildewed boxes that probably hold Christmas decorations older than I am. The concrete is scuffed where the heavy workbench used to be. I can see the faint outline of the anti-fatigue mat I stood on while sanding prototypes. A single screw rolls under my shoe when I take another step. They didn't just borrow something, they stripped it. My legs feel hollow as I stumble to the interior door and shove it open with more force than necessary. The kitchen is too quiet. Mom, Dad, and my sister are sitting around the oak table like some low-budget remake of The Last Supper. Dad is at the far end, elbows on the table, hands clasped. Mom sits stiffly to his right, fingers twisting the corner of a dish towel, and across from them, by the window, is my younger sister, Lana, scrolling on her phone with manic intensity. My parents' eyes snap to me the second the door bangs against the stopper. Nobody says anything. The silence has a shape. It's heavy and sour, like the air before a thunderstorm. My gaze flickers from Mom to Dad to Lana. All 3 of them look off. Mom's lipstick is a little smudged, like she's wiped her mouth obsessively. Dad's faded work shirt is buttoned askew. One button slid into the wrong hole. Lana's hair, a perfect honey blonde wave she usually maintains like it's a religion, is scraped into a messy bun that looks more desperate than cute. My stomach sinks. "Where is it?" My voice comes out thin and hoarse. "Where's my stuff?" Mom's smile arrives late, like she had to go find it in another room. "Mia, honey, you're home. How was your... Where is it?" The words scrape up my throat like they've grown claws. Dad's gaze drops to the table, his hands spread flat against the wood as if anchoring himself to the earth. Lana looks at me full on, and the expression on her face is one I've seen before. Performance mode. The brand voice she uses on Instagram when she talks about her followers like they're a movement. It's just temporary, she says, lifting her chin. You're going to freak out, but I need you to not freak out. I let out a sound that might be a laugh or a sob. I genuinely can't tell. That's not reassuring. Mom's voice shifts into that high, sugar-coating tone she uses when she's about to feed me bad news like it's medicine. Sweetie, why don't you sit down? Let's talk about this calmly. I don't move. I just opened the garage, I say, my throat tightening. My workbench is gone. My tools are gone. The printers, the machines, all of it. What did you do? Dad's shoulders hunch like he's taking an invisible punch. We made a decision, he says, voice rough with something that is not quite remorse. We did what we had to do for the family. The word family lands like a slap. Lana flips her hair back. There's a sheen of nerves under the gloss now, but she powers through. She always powers through. Mia, listen. My studio launch is going to change everything. It's bigger than just me selling some bracelets online. It's a lifestyle brand. I'm building a community. I just needed some capital to get it off the ground, and capital? I echo stunned. You took my studio equipment for capital? It's not gone, she rushes. It's collateral. I'll get it back. I promise. I talked to people. I did research. Lana, I say slowly, what did you do? Her eyes flick to Mom, then back to me. Mom exhales like she's been holding her breath for days. We took some of your equipment to Ironclad Loans, she says, and we used the studio lease as security. Just for a little while, honey, until Lana's business takes off and she can repay it. The room tilts. Ironclad Loans is a predatory lender that advertises between daytime courtroom shows and cheap used car dealerships. I've seen their commercials. Red letters, fast-talking voiceovers, no credit, bad credit, no problem, vibes. I feel like I've been dunked in ice water. You took my lease? My words are coming from somewhere very far away. How would you even do that? My name is the only one on that contract. Dad clears his throat. You left some papers here last month, he says, from when you had the plumbing thing and you came by to print the updated lease. You know I hate computers. I just saw the packet in the drawer, and when we were talking to the loan officer, he said they needed proof of ownership and proof of tenancy. Lana corrects under her breath. It's technically... I ignore her. Are you saying, I ask very evenly, that you took my lease agreement and, handed it over to some strip mall loan shark as collateral? Mom flinches. Family helps family, Mia, she says quickly, like she can head me off at the pass. You know how hard Lana has been working on her jewelry line. She's really got something special. She just needed a little boost. The laugh that tears out of me is sharp and bitter. A little boost. I nod slowly. Sure, that's what you call liquidating my entire studio setup and securing a loan with a lease you had no right to touch. You're overreacting, Mom says a little desperately. You make good money at that company of yours. Lana's trying to build something for herself too. You were out in Seattle making your career and she was here trying to make hers. Something in me snaps. For 6 years, I say, my hand shaking as I point toward the garage, I have been working my ass off. I have eaten ramen, skipped vacations, worn the same boots until the soles literally cracked so I could afford that studio and everything in it. I've turned down nights out and weekends away so I could save for better equipment. I built that space with my own hands. We know that, Dad says, pained. We're not saying you didn't work hard. It wasn't yours to take. My voice ricochets off the walls. Lana flinches, her bravado flickering. Mia, relax, she says, but there's a tremor in it now. I'll pay it back with interest, I swear. I've got pre-orders, I've got influencers lined up to promote, I hold up a hand and she goes quiet. I can hear my own heartbeat thumping in my ears. Somewhere in the back of my mind, an old memory stirs. Me, at 19, standing in my grandfather's little basement workshop watching him polish the wooden body of a guitar he'd spent months restoring. My mom's dad, not the one who chain-smoked and lectured us, but Grandpa Lou, who smelled like sawdust and coffee and called me Mimi because I cried when he shortened my name to M. He'd put the finished guitar in my hands, the wood cool and smooth under my fingers, the strings humming when I plucked them timidly. People think it's about the thing, he'd said, adjusting my hands. The guitar, the table, the toy, but it's not, Mimi. It's about the hours, the thought, the care. It's about knowing you can bring something into the world that didn't exist before you decided to make it. I remember that feeling, the quiet rightness of it, The way his words made the cheap, flimsy world of mass-produced crap feel far away. The studio isn't just a room, I say now, my voice hoarse. It's my hours, my thought, my care, and you decided it was, what, a family resource? Something you could borrow? It's not like that, Mom protests. We didn't sell it. We just used it to help your sister. You've always been so capable, Mia. You land on your feet. Lana needed us. Yeah, Lana says, shoulders stiffening. You've always had your thing, your fancy job, your little workshop. I have my vision too. I just needed you to believe in me. I believe in business plans, I say coldly. Budgets, market research. I believe in not committing fraud. At that, Dad's eyes flick up, alarmed. Now hold on, he says. Nobody committed fraud. My phone buzzes in my pocket, a little persistent vibration that somehow cuts through the thick air. I pull it out without looking, needing something solid to hold on to. It's an email from my landlord. Subject, urgent lease inquiry. My thumb moves on autopilot. Hi, Mia. I received a call from Ironclad Loans this afternoon regarding verification of your tenancy for the studio unit. They faxed over a copy of your lease for confirmation of signature. Please call me as soon as possible. Also, I'm concerned because the signature on what they sent doesn't look like the one on your original lease. My fingers go numb. Dad? I say quietly, not looking up from the screen. Where's the copy of the lease you gave them? He swallows, Adam's apple bobbing. They kept it, he says. They made copies, and I signed where they told me to. Did you forge my signature? I ask. Silence. The world shrinks down to my father's face and the way his eyes slide away from mine. Gerald, Mom whispers horrified, tell her you didn't. He doesn't. A low roaring sound fills my ears. I scroll down in the email. There's an attachment. Lease copy ironclad PDF. My thumb is shaky as I tap it. A grainy scan fills my screen. The familiar header from my leasing company. My name printed under tenant, and at the bottom, in blue ink black, a looping script that is very close to mine. But not mine. The M is wrong. The cross on the T in Martinez is a little too low. My real signature has a tiny upward flick at the end of the Z, a habit I picked up sometime in college. This one doesn't. A sound escapes me. It might be a laugh, it might be a sob, it might be both. I turn the phone around and slam it down on the table in front of Dad, the PDF glowing on the screen. This, I say, is not my signature. He stares at it like it's a spider he wasn't expecting. The guy at Ironclad said it had to match, he mutters. He said they needed something with your name on it, and we just copied what was there. It's just paperwork, Mia. It's all in the family. The words all in the family make something cold and clean slice through the fog in my brain. This isn't paperwork, I say slowly. This is identity theft. This is fraud, Dad. You forged my signature. You signed my lease over as collateral without my consent. You took property that belongs to me, equipment I bought with my own money, and put it under someone else's control. We were going to tell you, Mom says weakly. We just wanted to wait until the launch, so you could see that it was all going to work out. How much? I ask. My voice is calm now. It scares me a little. How calm? How much did you borrow? Lana swallows. 60, she says. 16? I repeat, hope flaring for half a second. 60, she says again, and the zero lands between us like a bomb. 60,000. They said with the equipment and the lease value and the projected income from the brand, it was reasonable. It's an investment, Mia. I'm launching a full line. Jewelry, scarves, curated home goods. I have a photographer, a brand strategist. I hold up my hand again. Stop. She stops. Do you have the paperwork? I ask Dad. He nods, miserable, and reaches for the drawer by the fridge. It's the same drawer where we used to keep crayons and coloring books when we were kids. Now it's stuffed with unpaid medical bills and grocery coupons and apparently contracts for crimes. He pulls out a thick envelope with Ironclad Loans stamped across the front in aggressive red letters and hands it to me. My UX brain kicks in automatically, even as my heart feels like it's splintering. I scan the headers, the bolded numbers, the italicized fine print. Every step of the process is designed to hurt a desperate person toward yes without really understanding what they're agreeing to. Loan amount $60,000. Interest 19.9% APR. Term 12 months. Collateral. All equipment listed in Addendum A. There it is, my printers, my machines, my hand tools, my workbench like they're just serial numbers. And leasehold interest in detached workshop located at... I swallow bile. Further down, in small print, Upon borrower default, Ironclad Loans reserves the right to seize and liquidate all collateral and to claim all rights, title, and interest in the leasehold. Borrower consents to substitution of lessee on existing lease agreement. They can take my studio, not just the stuff in it, the space. When is the first payment due? I ask. Dad hesitates. They gave us a month, he says. First payment was due yesterday, but they said there's a grace period, 2 weeks before any fees kick in. My hands flip pages. There it is. First payment due September 30th, grace period to October 14th. After October 14th, late fees accrue daily. After November 1st, if no payment received, borrower is in default, collateral subject to immediate seizure. Today is October 3rd. My brain does the math without my permission. We have 11 days before the grace period ends. 29 days before they can start seizing. I feel my heartbeat in my teeth. How much is the monthly payment? I ask. Dad's shoulders cave inward. Just under $6,000, he says. We thought, with Lana's launch numbers and my overtime, and if we were careful with our own expenses, I don't hear the rest. $6,000 a month for a year. On my little sister's delusions of entrepreneurial grandeur. I sink into the chair opposite him because my knees decide they're done pretending to hold me upright. Okay, I say, more to myself than to them. Okay. Mia, honey. Mom leans forward, eyes shining with tears. Please don't be angry. We did this for your sister, for her future. You've always been so strong. You'll understand when you see how big this becomes. I look up at her. My mother, who once told me she didn't understand why I'd want to waste my time on computer art instead of something stable, like teaching. My mother, who forgot my senior showcase but flew to California for Lana's micro-influencer retreat. Don't cry, I say softly. This is exactly what you think it is. You stole from me. Her tears freeze halfway down her cheeks. Mia, she whispers horrified, how can you say that? Because if anyone else did what you just did, I say, my voice sharpening, we would call it theft and fraud and identity theft. We would not call it family helping family. We would call the police. The word police makes Dad flinch hard enough that his chair squeaks. We're your parents, he says. You can't call the cops on your own parents. I stare at him across the table. Watch me, I say. Lana gasps. You can't be serious. I am very serious, I say. You forged my signature. You signed over my property. You committed financial fraud to fund your lifestyle brand. It's not just lifestyle, she snaps, stung. It's empowerment. It's about women owning their magic. Your magic can get its own funding, I cut in. Angel investors, crowdfunding, sugar daddies, I don't care. What you can't do is plunder my life's work to pay for your photo shoots. The air is brittle. Here's what's going to happen, I say, my voice steady now. You have 30 days. Dad blinks. 30? 30 days, I repeat, to pay off the entire loan and get my equipment and my lease released. All of it. Clean. If Ironclad still has any claim on my studio after that point, I will go to the police with this. I tap the contract, and with the forged lease, and with the email from my landlord, and I will file charges for fraud, identity theft, and theft of property. Mom makes a strangled noise. Mia, please. Family doesn't get a magical exception from the law, I say. You have taken advantage of me my entire life and called it love. This is where it stops. Lana's eyes are huge. You'd really send Mom and Dad to prison? She whispers, because I tried to build something? Don't you dare pin this on me, I say. You knew I would say no if you asked. That's why you went behind my back and convinced them to steal from me. Her face crumples. I just wanted a chance, she says. Everyone always talks about how responsible you are, how successful, how... So you decided my dream didn't count, I say quietly. You decided it was acceptable collateral damage. We stare at each other. And in that moment, I'm not 31 and she's not 25. We're 8 and 12 again. We're standing in the driveway while Mom gushes over Lana's dance recital costume and forgets I exist. We're at the mall watching Dad buy Lana an expensive pair of sneakers because all the girls in her dance group have them, while I put my own pair back on the shelf because those are too much, Mia. Be reasonable. Decades of tiny, sharp moments link arms in my chest until they form a chain. My phone buzzes again. This time, it's a notification from my bank. New lien inquiry associated with Ironclad Loans. I lock the screen and stand up. 30 days, I say again. I'll text you a deadline. If by that date, every cent is paid and every claim on my studio is gone, we can talk about how our relationship looks going forward. If not, We'll talk to a lawyer and a detective instead." "You're being dramatic," Mom says weakly. "No," I say. For the first time in my life, I'm being proportional. I pick up the contract envelope and tuck it under my arm. "I'm taking these," I add. "I'll need them when I go to Ironclad in the morning." Dad looks panicked. "You're not going to make trouble for us, are you?" I smile, but it doesn't reach my eyes. "I'm going to make trouble for anyone who thinks my life is theirs to mortgage," I say. "If the shoe fits." I leave the envelope with Lana's brand deck on the table, pages full of pastel mood boards and buzzwords that suddenly look less like a dream and more like evidence. The hallway feels too narrow as I walk down it. The family photos staring at me from the walls feel like lies. Posed Christmases, contrived smiles, papering over the cracks. In the doorway of the living room, I pause. There is a picture of me at 22, holding the acceptance letter from Stratus Labs. Mom's arm is around my shoulders, Dad's hand on my back, both of them beaming. Lana isn't in that one. She was at a music festival, too busy to come home for my biggest news. I study my younger self. The earnest excitement, the naive hope that this would be the thing that made them see me. "You did good," I tell the girl in the frame quietly. I'm sorry they didn't act like it. I grab my suitcase from where I dropped it by the door, pick up the garage remote, and step back outside. The sun has dipped lower. The air feels colder, like something has shifted on some tectonic level beneath the street. The garage yawns open behind me, empty. My studio key presses into my palm through the lining of my pocket. I get into my car, shut the door, and for the first time all day, let myself fall apart. The carpet in Ironclad Loans is the color of dried ketchup and bad decisions. It squishes faintly under my flats as I walk from the glass door to the front counter, the strap of my backpack digging into my shoulder. The place smells like stale coffee and printer toner with a faint undernote of desperation that somebody tried and failed to mask with a plug-in air freshener. A TV in the corner plays their own commercial on loop, smiling people hugging loan officers, VO promising flexible terms and same-day approval over a flashing phone number. Nobody in the lobby looks like the people on the screen. A man in a faded hoodie stares at his shoes. A woman in scrubs flips through a sheaf of bills so thick it could stop a bullet. The front desk is an L-shaped laminate counter with a plastic sign that says, "How can we help you today?" in friendly blue letters. Behind it, a woman in a patterned blouse and box braids types something into a terminal, her nails clicking against the keys. Her name tag says Sharon, Customer Services. She looks up as I approach. "Hi, welcome to Ironclad," she says automatically. "Are you here to make a payment, or—" "I'm here about a loan taken out under my father's name," I cut in, "and my lease." Her smile thins slightly. "Okay," she says, professional. "Do you have the loan number?" I slide the thick envelope onto the counter. "Right here." She pulls out the contract, flips through with practiced efficiency, and taps a number into her screen. The monitor reflects soft green light on her face as she reads. "Loan ending in 4392, she says. "Borrower, Gerald Martinez." Her eyes flick to me. "Relation." "Daughter," I say. "I'm also the tenant on the lease you're using as collateral. That lease was used without my consent. The signature on your copy is not mine." That gets a full pause. "Okay," she says slowly. "That's a different kind of issue. I'll need to get my branch manager. Can I see your ID?" I hand over my driver's license. She compares the photo to my face, then my name to the contract. Her eyebrows lift a millimeter. "Wait here," she says. She disappears through a door behind the desk. The clock on the wall ticks loudly. My heart keeps trying to sync with it and failing. There's a row of plastic chairs against the wall. I don't sit. If I sit, my knees might decide they're done for the day. I stand instead, fingers digging into the straps of my backpack, trying to breathe past the tight hot knot under my sternum. "You're a professional," I tell myself. "You handle difficult stakeholders for a living. This is just another one." Except when a stakeholder ignores your recommendations, you don't usually have to worry about them seizing your entire life. The door behind the counter swings open. Sharon reappears with a tall man in a navy shirt and a tie that has seen better decades. His hairline is losing an uneven battle with time, and his name tag says Martin, Branch Manager. He gives me the kind of smile they teach at How Not to Get Sued seminars. "Ms. Martinez," he says. "I'm Martin. I understand you have some concerns about your father's loan." "Concerns is one word for it," I say. "Why don't you come into my office and we can discuss in private?" he suggests, gesturing toward the hallway. His office is small and aggressively beige. There's a fake plant in one corner and a framed motivational poster of a mountain that says, perseverance in bold white letters, which feels wildly inappropriate in a place that makes money off people stuck in financial holes. He motions to a chair. I sit because I guess that's what we're doing. He closes the door, then settles behind the desk, hands folded. So, he says, tell me what's going on from your perspective. I slide my license and the printed email from my landlord across the desk. My parents took out a loan here, I say, using my studio lease and my equipment as collateral. I did not authorize this. I was out of state when the papers were signed. The signature representing me on your copy of the lease is forged. His eyes move from my ID to the email, then to me. You're saying you didn't sign the lease documents we have on file, he says. I'm saying the only lease I signed was the original with my landlord 2 years ago, I reply. The one Ironclad has was taken from my parents' house, altered, and signed by someone pretending to be me. He doesn't reach for any papers yet. He does the thing where they try to de-escalate by appearing calm enough for both of you. Okay, he says slowly. Have you spoken to your parents about this? The question sparks something sharp in me. Yes, I say. I spoke to them last night. My father admitted to copying my signature. I have an email from my landlord expressing concern that the signature on the document he received from you doesn't match the one on my original lease. I have location data proving I was in Seattle the day your contract was signed. His eyes flicker at that. Do you have that with you? I pull my phone from my pocket, open my calendar with flight confirmations and the time-stamped geotagged vendor badge selfie from the client's office and slide it over. Look, I say. I design systems for a living. I know how audits work. Your company has security footage from the day my parents came in. I'd like you to pull it. If the person signing my name is not me, which it won't be, then you've issued a loan based, at least partially, on fraudulent documentation. He stares at the phone for a long moment, then sighs. Ms. Martinez, he says, I want to be clear. We are not in the business of committing fraud. We rely on the documents presented to us and, when necessary, verification from landlords, employers, etc. You called my landlord, I say pointedly. He flagged the signature as suspicious. That call came in yesterday after business hours, he says. I just saw the email this morning. I plan to follow up today. Sure you did, I think, but I let it slide. I have bigger fish. He finally turns to his computer, types something, and clicks through a few screens. Then he stands. Wait here, he says. I'm going to pull the application packet and see about the footage. This may take a little while. I nod. He leaves. The office feels smaller without another body in it. The ticking clock is louder in here too. My leg starts bouncing of its own accord. I force it still. I imagine Grandpa Lou sitting here, long, clever fingers tapping an impatient rhythm on the arm of the chair, saying something like, always remember, Mimi, if someone's holding something that belongs to you, you look them in the eye while you ask for it back. I breathe. I think of my studio. The smell of sawdust and hot plastic. The way light slants through the high windows in the afternoon and hits the surface of whatever I'm working on like it's on stage. I am not losing that. After what feels like 20 minutes, but is probably 8, the door opens again. Martin re-enters with a manila folder and a cautious expression. Okay, he says, resuming his seat. I've reviewed the file. I've also asked our security team to pull the footage from the date in question. That may take a few hours, but I can tell you what's on paper. He opens the folder. The loan is in your father's name, he says. The equipment list is based on the appraisal done by our third-party assessor. The lease is presented as proof of collateral value. It's standard practice for us to require the lessee's consent when a leasehold is used as security. Which you didn't get, I say. He taps the final page. There's a signature with your name under lessee consenti felici, he says, matching the name on your ID. Not matching the signature, I counter. He inclines his head. Which is why we're treating this seriously, he says. If it does turn out that your father forged your name, that's a legal issue between you, your family, and potentially law enforcement. From our perspective, however, he hesitates. The loan is still valid. The funds have been disbursed. The collateral is tied to your father's payment performance. The knot in my chest tightens. So, even if you know the consent was fraudulent, I say slowly, you still get to hold my studio hostage. He doesn't flinch at the word hostage, but his jaw tightens barely. We have to protect the company's interests, he says. That said, we are not interested in being involved in a family fraud situation. If you wish to file a police report and have this declared invalid, that is your right. But in the meantime, I ask. In the meantime, he says, the loan stands. If it is repaid in full within the term, the lien on your equipment and lease is released. If it's not, He spreads his hands as if the ending of this sentence is as inevitable as gravity. Our collections process begins. The room tilts again for a second, then rights itself. Okay, I say, fine, then this is how it's going to go. He raises an eyebrow. I'm not asking you to invalidate the loan on the spot, I say. I know how many people you must see in here begging for exceptions. What I am asking is for a complete payout amount and a clear deadline in writing. He nods slowly. We can provide a payoff statement, he says. It will include the principal, any interest accrued, and any applicable fees. And if the loan is paid in full by that date, I press, you confirm that Ironclad has zero claim on my equipment, my studio, or my lease. Zero. I want it in black and white. That's standard, he says. Once a loan is fully satisfied, the lien is released. But yes, we can put that in writing. I sit back. My heart is still racing, but now there is something like a plan under the panic. Good, I say. Then we have a starting line and a finish line. He studies me for a beat. Ms. Martinez, he says, tone softening a fraction. I see a lot of people come through here. Most of them don't come in with this kind of documentation or composure. If I let myself fall apart, I say, we're going to have a different kind of conversation. His mouth quirks briefly, not quite a smile, but close. I'll have Sharon print the payoff statement, he says. You should know, though, until the loan is either paid or invalidated by legal action, our rights to the collateral remain. We can't make exceptions based on internal family disputes. I nod. I already know my family won't be where I find the exceptions, I say. When I step out of his office, the lobby feels brighter and colder. Sharon hands me a statement with a number at the bottom that makes my stomach lurch. Total payoff amount, if paid by OCT 30, $6,842.17. I take it, fold it carefully, and slide it into my backpack with the contract. I walk back out into the October light, feeling like someone has swapped my bones for porcelain. One wrong move, and I'll shatter. My phone buzzes as the door swings shut behind me. It's a text from Carla. How'd the meeting with the fun loan people go? You okay? I forgot I told her that part. Still have a studio to lose, I type back. So that's something. Can we talk later? 3 dots appear almost immediately. Of course. Take what you need today. The client's happy and your promotion paperwork is already with HR. Don't let this family mess steal that from you, okay? It already did, I think, but I text back a simple, trying. For a few days, I operate like a person whose life hasn't been derailed. I go into the office. I reply to emails. I sit in meetings about onboarding flows and error messaging for the Horizon project. I smile and nod while the product owner talks about leveraging the post-launch momentum. From the outside, I'm fine. Inside, I'm always counting. 60,000, 6,000 a month, 30 days, 11 until the grace period ends, 29 until they can take the studio. Every time my phone buzzes with a notification, my stomach clenches. Every ding could be Ironclad, or my landlord, or my parents, or my sister asking for more. On day 3, I open the old photo album my mom guilt texts me about every holiday. Do you remember this? You were such a cute baby. We should go through these together sometime. The album lives on my bookshelf, mostly ignored. That night, I pull it down and flip through plastic-covered memories. Lana's 5th birthday party, backyard decorated with streamers, an inflatable unicorn, 20 kids. My 8th birthday, same year. A small sheet cake on the kitchen table, one friend from school, no decorations. Mom's handwriting below, Mia's B-Day. We kept it simple this year because money was tight. But apparently, not too tight 3 pages later, when Lana's gymnastics show warranted a full-page spread and so proud in glitter pen. Lana's 8th grade graduation. My parents beaming, dad in a new shirt, Lana holding a bouquet. My high school graduation. A blurry shot someone else took for me as I stood on stage alone. The seat where my parents should have been is empty. They'd hit traffic on the way back from Lana's workshop in the city. I stare at that one longer than I mean to. My phone rings. My uncle's name flashes on the screen. Tio Raphael. I hesitate, then answer. Hola Sobri, he says, skipping hello, his voice warm and a little too loud like always. Your mother called me. Of course she did. Oh, I say. She says you're upset. He continues, that there was some misunderstanding with Lana's business. I laugh sharp. Is that what we're calling grand theft and fraud now? A misunderstanding? He sighs. I can picture him pinching the bridge of his nose, sitting at the small kitchen table in his apartment above the auto shop. Tell me what happened, mija, he says. From the beginning, not the soap opera version your mother gave me. So I do. I tell him about the empty garage, the forged signature, the ironclad contract, my 30-day ultimatum, my parents' silence, Lana's entire girl boss spiel. By the time I'm done, he is very, very quiet. Rafa, I say, I'm here, he says finally. I'm just trying to decide whether to scream or drive over there and throw your father into the nearest trash can. A startled laugh sputters out of me. You'd have to get in line. You know this isn't right, he says. You always knew, even when you were little. He exhale laughs, humorless. You were 10, sitting on my toolbox, telling me that fair and equal weren't the same thing. I remember, I say. I can see it. My legs swinging, oil smell in the air, him trying to explain why Lana got a brand new bike for Christmas and I got a second-hand one. You were always the sensible one, he says, and they took advantage of that. Being the responsible kid is not a reward, it's unpaid labor. There's a lump in my throat suddenly. What are you going to do? He asks. I look down at the payoff notice on the coffee table. Try to save my studio, I say, and maybe my sanity. How much? He asks. 60, I say, plus change. He whistles low. Listen, he says, I don't have that kind of money sitting around, but I can help with something. A small loan, no interest, and more importantly, I can be the designated bad cop. The what? I ask. The one who doesn't care about being the favorite, he says. You set your boundaries, I will back them. If anyone in the family gives you shit, they answer to me first. The warmth that washes through me is so intense it almost hurts. Rafa, I say, voice wobbling, thank you. Don't thank me for basic decency, he says. Just remember this when I'm old and annoying and need you to teach me how to use whatever hologram nonsense you people will be using instead of phones. We talk for another 10 minutes about nothing. The shop, his new trainee, his neighbor's terrible parking, until my heart rate drops below hummingbird. When we hang up, the apartment is quiet again, but the silence feels less like a vacuum and more like room. Room for a plan. Day 5 is when Lana's empire starts to crumble in public. Jessica leans over my monitor around 3 p.m., eyes wide. Isn't this your sister? She asks, scrolling through her phone. On the screen is Lana's Instagram page. Perfect grids of flat lay photos, her face angled just so in carefully filtered selfies, stacks of dainty gold necklaces and resin rings. Except now, the pastel aesthetic is interrupted by something else, blocks of text in angry red. Alana made this bracelet turn my wrist green in 2 days. I paid $120 for a handcrafted necklace and it came in a Shein bag. My order arrived broken and she blocked me when I asked for a refund. The comments under her latest post are a mess, accusations, screenshots of DMs. A whole subreddit has apparently formed overnight dedicated to calling her out. Jessica scrolls, frowning. Yikes, she says. Did she just drop ship cheap stuff and mark it up? I stare, throat tight. I don't know, I say, but I'm not surprised. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Lana. Can you talk? I stare at it. I think about ignoring it. Let her stew in the consequences. But if this ship sinks with 60 grand of my studio tied to its mast, I drown too. 10 minutes, coffee shop downstairs, I type. Just you. She's already there when I arrive, hunched at a corner table, hoodie up, sunglasses on, despite the gloomy weather. A paper cup sits in front of her, untouched. She looks small. For a second, I see not my adult sister who defrauded me, but the kid who used to crawl into my bed when she had nightmares and tug my hand at doctor's appointments. Then she looks up and the anger rushes back in like a tide. I'm being canceled, she blurts, pushing her sunglasses to the top of her head. Her eyes are red-rimmed. These trolls are spreading lies and everyone's believing them and I'm going to lose everything, Mia. Are they lies? I ask calmly, sitting down. She opens and closes her mouth, then looks down. Some of the suppliers weren't what I thought they were, she mutters. The guy I worked with said they were ethical and local, and then I guess some stuff was imported and... Did you vet them? I interrupt. Read the contracts? Look into their sourcing? She doesn't answer. I lean back. Okay, I say. Walk me through your business. Start to finish. No bullshit. If I catch one hashtag's worth of spin, I walk. She swallows. Then, to her credit, she starts talking. She tells me about the course she bought from some online 6-figure brand coach who promised to turn her into a millionaire in 6 months. About the pressure to launch big and fake it till you make it, about pre-orders and investing in the vibe. She admits she never wrote a proper business plan, never did a real cost analysis beyond charge triple whatever it cost to source, never calculated how many orders she'd need to break even on the 60 grand, let alone profit. And now people are demanding refunds, she says, voice cracking. The payment processor froze my account because of all the chargebacks. The bank says my business account is in the red. I can't even pay the suppliers for the second batch. Everything is imploding. And the loan payment? I ask quietly. She winces. I sent what I had, she says. $2,000, but it bounced. The processor held the funds and there was nothing left. My heart sinks. So Ironclad has 0 so far, I say. She nods, eyes filling. We sit in silence for a moment, her sniffles competing with the hiss of the espresso machine. I didn't realize, she whispers, how hard it is to actually run something. Everyone online makes it look easy, I finish, effortless, curated. I think about all the nights I stared at UX flows until my eyes crossed, the hours it took to tweak a micro interaction so it felt invisible. The better the design, the less anyone notices the work. Welcome to reality, I say. She swipes at her eyes. Mascara streaks across the heel of her hand. I'm sorry, she says suddenly, looking up. The words tumble out in a rush. I'm so sorry, Mia. I knew you'd say no if I asked. I knew you'd tell me it was too much risk, that I needed a plan. And I was so tired of being the disappointment next to perfect Mia, so I convinced Mom and Dad to help me behind your back. I told myself it was temporary, that it would all be fine when the money started rolling in. I didn't think... That it might fail? I supply. She flinches. That it might hurt you this much, she says. I thought you'd be annoyed, but you'd understand because it was me. The honesty in that last word is a punch. Because it was me. Because the rules have always bent for Lana. Because my parents rearranged gravity for her and told me to be proud of the way she floated. I draw in a slow breath. I appreciate the apology, I say. I do, but sorry doesn't make Ironclad disappear. So here's where we are. We have a fixed amount of time to find 60 grand, or I lose my studio and possibly take you and our parents to court. She pales. You wouldn't... I absolutely would, I say. I don't want to, but I will if I have to, because I'm done being the safety net you set on fire and expect to keep catching you. Her eyes fill again. What do we do? She whispers. I take out the payoff statement and lay it between us. We get real, I say. We cut the lifestyle. You get a job. A real one, with a paycheck and taxes and managers who don't care about your follower count. Mom and Dad figure out what they can actually contribute without mortgaging their souls. I put in what I can without wrecking my own future, and we call in backup. Backup? She echoes. Tio, Raphael, I say. Maybe others, if they're willing. But understand this. I'm not the one fixing this. I will coordinate. I will contribute. But the days of Maya quietly handling everything while everyone pats Lana on the head are over. She nods, shaky. Okay, she says. Okay, I'll look for jobs, retail, or... There's a mall 15 minutes from your apartment, I say. They're always hiring. Start there. Her lower lip trembles. You really think I can fix this? She asks. I look at her for a long moment. I think you can start trying, I say. Whether that's enough, we'll see. That night, I sit at my tiny kitchen table with a spreadsheet open. My laptop screen illuminating the dark kitchen. On the left, the payoff amount, the deadlines, the current contributions pledged, mine, Tio's, a theoretical chunk from my bonus if it clears in time. On the right, a blank column for my parents. I stare at the empty cells. Then I open a new document and start typing. Repayment plan, draft. My fingers fly. Years of writing specs and proposals have made this part easy, stating conditions, defining timelines, outlining consequences. Loan payoff must be completed by X date. All contributions tracked and documented. Separate repayment schedule from them to me for any amount I front. If deadlines aren't met, I reserve the right to pursue legal action. It feels cold, clinical. It feels like survival. My phone buzzes. This time it's my mom. Can we talk? I stare at the screen, the cursor blinking in my draft contract. I think of her twisting that dish towel at the table, her insistence that family helps family as if that phrase is a magic spell, the way she always found an excuse for why Lana needed more. Then I type, Sunday, 4 p.m., your house. You, Dad, Lana, me. Bring all your financial information. 3 dots appear. Okay, we love you. You know that, right? I stare at that for a long beat. We'll talk Sunday, I reply. I set my phone face down on the table. On my screen, the words consequences of non-compliance stare back at me. I take a deep breath and keep typing. For the first time in my life, I'm not designing around other people's comfort. I'm designing around my own boundary. I don't sleep much before Sunday. My brain keeps looping through worst-case scenarios. Mom wailing, Dad shutting down, my uncle turning it into a joke, Rafa walking out and saying he's done with all of us. Every time I close my eyes, the ironclad Loans logo flashes behind my eyelids like a threat. By noon, my stomach is acid. At 3, I'm standing in my parents' driveway again, holding a manila folder full of printed contracts and highlighted statutes, because apparently this is my new spiritual practice, bringing paperwork to family dinners. The August heat presses against my skin as I climb the porch stairs. Voices drift from inside, Mom's high, nervous chatter, Rafa's deeper murmur, my uncle's unmistakable laugh like a car backfiring. Someone's put music on low, something old and sentimental in Spanish. My hand hovers over the doorknob for a second. Then I remember my studio. Empty floor, cables coiled neatly, walls echoing because my monitors are gone. I remember Raphael's face, gray when he realized exactly what interest rate he'd signed on to without even reading the terms. I open the door. Mom's in the kitchen, wearing her company apron, lipstick a shade too bright, hands already fluttering when she sees me. "Mija, you're early," she says, which is wild because I'm exactly on time. "Hi, Mom." My voice sounds like it belongs to someone who slept. I did not. The dining table's been extended with the extra leaf, 2 mismatched chairs pulled from the garage. Dad's at the head, Rafa on one side, Tio Rafa. Yes, my boyfriend is Raphael, and my mom's youngest brother is also Raphael, hence the eternal confusion on the other. My cousin Yoli scrolls on her phone at the far end, earbuds dangling around her neck like potential escape. A legal pad sits in front of my dad. That's new. His reading glasses are perched on his nose, which means he is taking this very seriously. "All right," Tio Rafa says when I walk in, clapping his hands together. La Abogada has arrived. I shoot him a look. Not a lawyer, UX designer who knows how to read. "Same thing in this family," he mutters, but there's pride threaded through the joke. I slide into the empty chair opposite my parents and pull my folder out, laying it on the table like I'm laying down cards in a game I never agreed to play. Before we eat, I say, we need to go through this. Mom's shoulders sag a little. Can't we at least... No. My tone leaves zero room. We eat after, when the business part is done. Business. The word lands like a foreign object in the middle of the cross where my mom keeps her novena cards. I see her flinch. Rafa puts his hand on my knee under the table, a small grounding pressure. I didn't ask him to be here, but he insisted. "If this is about me, I'm not letting you stand alone," he'd said. Part of me wanted to tell him to stay out of it. The bigger part just felt bone-deep relief. I open the folder and pull out 3 copies of the same document. "This is a repayment agreement," I say, sliding them, so one is in front of Dad, one in front of Mom, and one in front of Rafa. It lists the exact amount you owe, the timeline, and what happens if you miss payments. "Which is what, exactly?" Dad asks, reaching automatically for my pen before stopping himself and getting his own. "Progress. If you default," I say, "I file a formal complaint with the State Attorney General and with the CFPB about ironclad loans, and I consult with a lawyer about recovering my equipment separately. That could mean civil court. It could also mean you dealing with more than just me being mad at Sunday dinner." Dad's throat bobs as he swallows. The number at the top of the page, 18,640.73, stares up at all of us, black and unblinking. That's the total of what Ironclad still wants, plus what Rafa already scraped together. It'd be higher if his cousin's friend at the credit union hadn't helped us get a short-term consolidation loan with something less predatory than 32% APR. Mom's eyes fill when she sees the figure. We can't pay that all at once." Her voice cracks. "Your father?" "I know," I say. "That's why it's here broken down. 24 months, $770 a month, split between you and Rafa, however you decide between you. I've got the math neat and precise. 500 from my parents, 277 from Rafa. They offered 600 and 177, but I refused. You don't get to walk away like this never happened. I'd told Rafa the night we sat on my living room floor with calculators between us like neutral therapists. You made choices too. You didn't listen. You signed. He'd wanted to argue. Then he thought of the night he'd lied about meeting Victor. The argument died. Now he looks at the number and nods, jaw tight but resigned. It's fair, he says. Dad exhales slowly through his nose. I can take on Saturdays again, he mutters. The plan always needs extra hands when they retool the line. Overtime pay will cover most of it. My heart twists. The man is 61 with 2 bad knees, talking about 12-hour shifts on concrete. It's only for a while, I say, softer than I mean to. Once the balance is lower, we can renegotiate if we need to. We won't, he says. There is a stubborn light in his eyes I haven't seen in a long time, the same one from old photos where he's my age, standing in front of the first house he bought for us with a chest that says, "I did this." Mom presses her lips together, skimming the clause I spent the most time on. 3 boundaries regarding property and credit. The parties agree that A. No loans, liens, sales, or other encumbrances will be placed upon Isabella Ramirez's property, credit, or financial accounts without her express written consent. B. No keys, access codes, or passwords belonging to Isabella will be copied, stored, or shared without her knowledge. C. Violations of this section will be considered immediate default of this agreement. She reads it twice, a faint flush creeping up her neck. So we have to ask you now for keys, she says, tone brittle. For a code to the garage? For the Wi-Fi? This isn't about Wi-Fi, Mom. But that's how it sounds. Her voice is climbing toward that sharp register that used to end arguments when I was a teenager. Like you don't trust us with anything now. I don't, I say. The kitchen goes very, very quiet. Yoli's phone screen goes dark as she finally looks up, eyes wide. Tio Rafa leans back, studying me like I'm a stranger he's just discovered is fluent in a language he doesn't speak. I take a breath and feel it shudder all the way down. I love you, I say, looking at my parents, but I do not trust you with my money, my property, or my work. You broke that. You don't get automatic access anymore. You earn it back, if you want it. Mom's hand flies to her chest like I've stabbed her. How can you say that? We're your parents. Exactly, I say. That's why this hurts so much. If some random friend had gone to Ironclad Loans behind my back and signed a predatory contract with my studio as collateral, you'd be the first ones telling me to file a police report. Dad looks away, his jaw flexes. And you didn't just risk my equipment, I continue, voice shaking now because the words are pushing past the filter I've always kept for their comfort. You risked my income, my contracts, my clients, the thing that keeps my rent paid and my health insurance active. You risked the one thing I spent 10 years building so that Rafa could, what? Prove to his dad that he's a businessman? It comes out harsher than I meant it. I see Rafa flinch out of the corner of my eye. He clears his throat. That's not... It is, I cut in, but my tone softens. At least partly, be honest. His shoulders slump. Yeah, he admits. Partly. I thought if I just pushed through, if I showed my dad that I could take a risk and win, he'd stop saying the shop was a hobby. He drags a hand over his face. Instead, I proved his other point. Which one? I ask. That I don't think things through. He says quietly. That I rush. That I get caught up in ideas and don't see the fine print. Literally. He gestures to the stack of contracts. Takes guts to say that out loud, kid, Tio Rafa says, nodding. I was 40 before I could say the same thing. My mom blinks wet eyes at the table. We didn't mean to hurt you like this. I know you didn't mean to, I say, but impact matters more than intention. You taught me that when I was 10, and I called Yoli chubby as a joke, and she cried in the bathroom for 2 hours. Remember? Yoli winces. That was a rough day. You sat me down, I say to Mom, and you said, you don't get to decide it doesn't hurt just because you didn't mean it that way. That's what this is. You can't decide it's not a big deal because you didn't see it as a big deal. Mom's mouth opens, closes, her eyes dart to Dad. He's been quiet this whole time, staring at the agreement like he's waiting for it to morph into something less damning. Now he sets his pen down slowly, looking straight at me. Tell me what you need, he says. No defensiveness, just tired, raw honesty. Not the legal words. You. What do you need from us to even try to fix this? My throat stings. I need you to sign this. I say first, because the legal words matter too. I need you to honor it every month, no excuses. He nods just once. I need you, I continue, voice going thinner, to never again talk about my work like it's some little internet job you don't understand. You don't have to understand. You just have to respect that it's real. That's fair, he says, almost under his breath. And I need, I add, for you to stop acting like every problem in this family is solved by me sacrificing something. Money, time, peace, whatever. If Yoli messes up with her student loans, you don't tell her to come ask me to co-sign. If Rafa, I glance at him, launches some new partnership. You don't show up asking me to just help a little by doing free branding or UX. You don't plan my paycheck before it hits my account. Mom winces. We just want everyone to be okay. I know. I rub my temples. But you keep deciding everyone means everyone except me, as long as she's still standing. Silence stretches across the table. The kitchen clock ticks louder than usual. Finally, my uncle exhales. She's not wrong. Mom's head snaps toward him. Rafa! Don't Rafa me, he says gently. You know it's true, Hermana. When Isabel got her first studio, you told everyone, it's just for now, until she gets a real job. When Rafa opened the shop, you posted about it like he'd won the lottery. It's always been like that. Different rules. Mom's face crumples. She presses the heels of her hands to her eyes. I just wanted him to feel supported, she whispers. He struggled so much. He's softer. And I was what? I ask, unable to help it. Hard? You were strong, she says, dropping her hands, her mascara smudged under her eyes. Desde Chiquita. You never cried. You did your homework on your own. I would think, she's fine. She doesn't need me the way he does. The old ache, that mix of pride and deep, stupid hurt, flares in my chest. I did need you, I say, barely above a whisper. I just stopped asking. Something like understanding passes over her face, slow and painful like a bruise blossoming. I'm sorry, she says. The words are bare, stripped, no qualifiers, no, but you know but you never, just, I'm so sorry, mija. My eyes burn. Rafa's hand tightens on my knee, a silent question. You okay? No, yes, I don't know. I clear my throat and push the pen toward Dad. Sign, I say, because if we stay in feelings much longer, I might crack all the way open. He signs. The loop of his G in Gerardo shakes, ink pooling slightly at the tail. Mom signs next, hand trembling, her S in Sylvia, tiny and precise. Rafa signs last, his name last on the page, but first on the line of consequences. He says he's ready to accept. When the last pen stroke dries, the atmosphere shifts almost imperceptibly. The power balance in the room has changed. It's not me as the kid begging for basic fairness anymore. It's me as an adult setting terms. I slide one copy back into my folder, hand another to Dad, and place the third in front of Rafa. Keep it, I tell him. He looks at it like it's a mirror showing him an unflattering angle. I will, he says quietly. Okay, Tio Rafa says, clapping his hands once, eyes suspiciously bright. Now can we eat? Before your mother has a breakdown about the roast drying out? Mom lets out a watery laugh that sounds half hysterical, half relieved. Ay, Dios, go wash your hands. All of you. I'm not letting serious conversations ruin my potatoes. We eat. It's awkward, because how do you segue from you violated my financial autonomy to pass the arroz? But there are little pockets of normal. Yoli complains about her statistics professor. My uncle tells a story about a guy at his construction site who tried to pour concrete without checking the rebar layout first and ended up with a literal crooked foundation. The metaphor is so obvious I almost snort my water. After dinner, as I'm putting on my shoes by the door, Dad appears beside me, moving slower than usual. Hey, he says, I want to show you something. My whole body tenses. If it's another contract... No, he says quickly. No more papers, just come. He leads me down the hallway to the door at the end, the tiny back room that used to be my bedroom until Yoli was born and we shuffled everyone around like a human Tetris game. I haven't been in there in years. He opens the door. It's still small, still windowless, still painted that pale yellow my mom loves. But the twin bed is gone. In its place is a sturdy wooden table pushed against one wall, a cheap but solid swivel chair, and a rack of shelves with neatly labeled plastic bins. Cables, adapters, stands, misc audio in Dad's careful block letters. The outlet plates have been replaced with ones that have built-in surge protectors. I've been working on it the last couple weeks, he says, a little shy. After I realized, there's always noise in the living room, people coming in and out of the kitchen. I thought if you ever wanted to record here, instead of at that ironclad place, you could have, I don't know, a space. I step inside. It smells like fresh paint and sawdust. The table has a few scuffs already. Knowing him, he repurposed wood from somewhere, sanded it down, stained it. There's a power strip bolted to the underside, cables zip-tied so they don't dangle. It's small, he says quickly. I know it's not like your studio, but the walls are thick. He adds with a half smile. Old house. I used the leftover insulation from when we did the attic, and look. He points up. Crude, but unmistakable. Cheap foam panels arranged in a makeshift pattern around where someone would sit to record. Not pretty, but functional. My throat closes. You build a home booth, I say, which feels stupidly inadequate. He shrugs, suddenly self-conscious. You always say time is money with your clients, no? I can't give you back what we risked, but maybe... He trails off, searching. Maybe this is a way to show you we know your work is real, that it matters. His voice drops. That you matter. Not just what you can do for everybody else. The foam tiles blur. I blink hard because I refuse to cry in this little yellow box. Not yet. Thank you, I manage. 2 tiny words that feel like they're standing on a pile of rubble trying to name the whole landscape. He relaxes an inch. You don't have to use it, he says quickly. I just wanted you to know. If you ever need to record and don't want to be alone in that place again, there's a space here. For you. With a lock only you have the key for. He adds almost fiercely. I look at the doorknob. Sure enough, a new lock. The kind that needs a physical key, not just a push button. He presses a small metal key into my palm. Don't give us a copy, he says. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That's up to you. The tears win. They slip hot down my cheeks before I can stop them. Dad looks alarmed, like he broke something. Is this wrong? He asks. Is it? No, I say, wiping my face. It's good. It's a start. He exhales, shoulders dropping. We stand there in the tiny room, surrounded by foam and dry wall dust and the weight of a decade of miscommunication. It's not fixed. Not even close. But for the first time since Ironclad Loans popped up as a notification on my phone, I feel something that isn't just anger or exhaustion. I feel possibility. 3 months later, my life is split into distinct columns in my brain. Column A, work. The big fintech rebrand I led for a mid-tier bank goes live, and my team's concept is splashed across billboards and app stores. My boss calls me into his glass-walled office and offers me lead UX on a new flagship product, a budgeting tool aimed at Gen Z and younger millennials. We need someone who understands the psychology of money, he says. Not just the flows. You've been living it lately. He doesn't know how true that is. Column B, family. Every month, on the 15th, an automatic transfer hits my account labeled Ramirez Repayment. Some months it's exactly 770 cents. Some months it's 800 or 850 when Dad picks up extra overtime or Rafa gets a big project. Once, when the plant shuts down for a week because of a supply issue, it's only 500. They call me that month, together, on speaker. We're short, Dad says before I even ask. We can make up the difference next month. We don't want you to think we're slacking. Old them would have just sent what they could and assumed I'd adjust. I appreciate the call, I tell them, and I do. Mom starts texting me pictures from coupon aisles and sale racks. Look, 2 for 1 on rice. That's another $10 for our payment. She sends me a selfie from a bookkeeping class she enrolls in at the community college. Maybe I can help Rafa at the shop with invoices, she writes, and not just with free labor. Her emojis are still chaotic, but the growth, that's real. Column C, Rafa. We almost break up. 2 weeks after the agreement, he asks if I can just take a quick look at a pitch deck he's making for a potential collaboration, one that involves renting a bigger space, buying more equipment, maybe hiring someone part-time. How are you paying for that? I ask, red flags already doing a rave in my head. My cousin's friend knows a guy who... He starts, then stops, winces. Right, that's familiar. I stare at him. He blows out a breath. I don't actually know how I'd pay for it. He admits, I just wanted... It sounded exciting, and I wanted to feel like I was moving forward, not just paying penance every month. I nod slowly. Wanting more isn't the problem, I say. It's the way you keep trying to skip the boring parts in between. He sinks onto my couch. I think I'm addicted to the idea of the big leap, he says, because the slow grind feels like failure, like I'm just average. I get that, I say quietly. I've just chosen a different addiction, the spreadsheet kind. We sit in silence. I don't want to break up, he says finally, voice small. But if you need to walk away from me to feel safe, I'll understand. It's the first time he's framed it that way. Not please don't leave, not you know I love you, but your safety matters more than us. Something inside my ribs loosens. I don't want to break up either, I say, but I need to see you handle boredom and disappointment and not getting what you want right away. I need to see you build something slow on purpose. He meets my eyes. Then that's what I'll do. He gets a part-time job at a print shop 3 blocks from his studio. I hate it, he tells me after his second week. My boss is a micromanager and people are rude when their stickers aren't ready and the printer jams exactly when my shift is almost over. And your shop? I ask. Still open, he says. Smaller, slower. But my rent's paid with print shop money, not your equipment, so that feels different, better. The first time he says no to a flashy offer from some YouTuber who wants a free collab in exchange for exposure, he calls me on his break. I said no, he says, breathless like he just ran a marathon. I told them my rates. They laughed. I didn't chase. I'm proud of you, I tell him, and I mean it. On the first cool Saturday in October, I host my second free workshop at the local library. It started as a joke. I was ranting to Jessica over lunch about predatory lending, and she said, "You should teach a class, like How Not to Get Screwed Over 101. I'd send half my cousins." So I pitched it to the branch manager of the library near my parents' house. "We have budgeting classes," she said, "but they're boring. One guy last month read off a PowerPoint about compound interest for an hour. Half the room fell asleep." "I can make it less boring," I promised. She gave me a Tuesday evening slot and a multi-purpose room that smells faintly of glue sticks and old coffee. I designed slides like I would for a client. Bold, clean typography, colors accessible to colorblind viewers, flow broken into stories instead of graphs. I called the workshop Protecting Your Dream, Boundaries, Scams, and Saying No, even to family. Because if I was going to bleed in public, it might as well help someone. Tonight, as the sun sinks behind the strip mall across the street, 17 people file into the room. Teenagers clutching phones, a tired nurse still in scrubs, a guy in a mechanic uniform, 2 elderly sisters who bicker quietly about whether they really need to be here. "Okay," I say, clicking to the first slide. A picture of a glittery dream board next to a contract with fine print that looks like a wall of ants. "I'm Isabel," I say. "I'm a UX designer. And last year, my family nearly lost my entire studio to a high-interest loan I never agreed to. Tonight, we're going to talk about how to protect your dream from other people's emergencies and from your own impulses." There are a few raised eyebrows. A teenager in a hoodie, Melissa from last time, leans forward, interested. We go through the red flags to watch for in lending apps, the difference between co-signing and co-borrowing, why family helps family doesn't mean you're obligated to bankrupt yourself for someone else's bad planning. I have them do an exercise where they list 3 things they're working toward: degrees, tools, businesses, freedom, and then we write boundary scripts together. No isn't the only option, I tell them. There's also not right now, and here's what I can offer that doesn't put me at risk. During the Q&A, a woman in her 40s raises her hand, eyes shiny. "What if they say you're selfish?" she asks. "When you say no," I smile, feeling the familiar sting in my chest. "They might," I say, "especially if they're used to you saying yes. But someone calling you selfish doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means they don't like your boundary." She nods slowly. A boy in the back, maybe 15, asks, "What if it's your parents?" My throat catches just a little. "Then," I say, choosing each word carefully, "it's even more important. Parents are human. They can be wrong, they can be scared, they can make terrible choices. You can love them and still say, 'No, I will not fix this for you the way you're asking.'" After the session ends, people drift out in clusters. Melissa hangs back again, as she did last time. She fiddles with the strap of her backpack. "My mom asked me yesterday if I'd put my phone plan in my name," she says, "'cause she's behind on hers, and if I open a new line, they'll give us phones for cheap." "And," I prompt, "and last year she did that with my cousin, and now his credit is screwed and he can't get a car." She says in a rush, I don't want that, but I also don't want her to say I don't care." I nod. "Did you answer?" She bites her lip. I told her I'd think about it, and then I came here. "Okay," I say, "let's write you a script." We sit at one of the tables under the fluorescent hum. I walk her through a sentence like we're sketching wireframes. "How does this feel?" I suggest. "Mom, I love you, but I'm not comfortable putting a contract in my name that could mess up my credit. I can help you call the phone company and see if there's a payment plan." She says it under her breath, testing the words like a new language. "Can you say it again?" I ask, this time like you mean it. She meets my eyes, shoulders squaring. "Mom," she says stronger now, "I love you, but I'm not putting a contract in my name that could mess up my credit. I can help you call them and ask for a plan. Good, I say. That's a boundary. You're not abandoning her. You're just not sacrificing your future to fix a problem you didn't create. She nods, eyes shining. When you said your family did that thing with your studio, she says softly, it made me feel less crazy. Like I'm not the only one whose family does stuff and then says I'm dramatic if I'm upset. You're not crazy, I say, and you're definitely not alone. She glances toward the door, where a woman waits, scrolling her phone. That's my mom, she whispers. She thinks this is a budgeting class. I smile. Well, in a way it is. As she walks away, I feel something twist and settle in my chest. Not closure. Life isn't a movie, but something close. Alignment. Like the road I'm on, with all its messy, cracked asphalt, still points somewhere I chose. A year after the ironclad fiasco, I drive out to the state park an hour from the city. The trunk of my little hatchback is full, but not with boxes frantically packed in case my studio disappears. It's filled with gear I own outright again. Refurbished monitors, a secondhand mixer, a better microphone I saved for by saying no to things that used to be automatic yeses. The park's campground is quiet this time of year. I snag a site near the edge of a cluster of trees, away from the RVs with their humming generators and string lights. I set up a small folding table in the back of my car, run a cable to the portable battery, and boot up my laptop. Birds argue in the trees. Someone's kid laughs in the distance. I record an episode, not for a client, for me. I've been slowly building a podcast, not about UX, not about audio, about money and boundaries and family stories, told in the messy first person of people who are still in the middle of it. The working title in my project file is Not Your Safety Net. I hit record. Hey, I say into the mic. It's Isabel. Today I want to talk about the most expensive sentence I've ever heard. We thought you'd understand. The words flow. I talk about my parents, about Rafa, about ironclad loans, about the home booth in my old bedroom, and the first time my mom texted me a screenshot of a payday loan ad asking, "Is this bad?" It feels bad. I talk about how my grandfather, different grandparent, different story, used to say that La familia es todo, family is everything, and how I used to think that meant I owed my bones to every crisis. Family is everything, I say, watching a hawk circle lazily over the trees. But you're part of that everything. You count too. Your dream counts, your sleep counts, your safety counts. You are not the emergency fund for everyone's bad decisions. When I finish, my voice is rough. I save the file, back it up 3 different ways because trauma has turned me into a redundancy queen, and then I just sit. The air smells like pine and distant smoke. Kids' laughter rises and falls. In my periphery, I see a couple unpacking a tent, arguing amiably about the instructions. My phone buzzes. It's a picture from Mom. A screenshot of the latest transfer she made. On time, love you, she's written. A second later, another text. A photo of my dad at the plant's break room holding a cheap foam coffee cup, giving the camera a weary but proud thumbs up. The caption, he says hi, and that he's quitting Saturdays in January after we finish your debt, as he calls it. I type back, fingers flying, tell him I said thank you, and that it's our debt, not just mine. Another buzz, this time from Rafa. It's a video of him in the shop sweeping up glitter and vinyl scraps. A little sign on the wall behind him reads, "No debt-based discounts." Underneath, in smaller letters, someone's added with a Sharpie. Or I tell Isabel. I laugh out loud. "How's your boring shift?" I text. He sends back a picture of the print shop's giant industrial printer with the caption, "We're in a stable, committed relationship now." It jams, I unjam. It spits out flyers. I go home tired, but not panicked. Kinda hot, honestly. I shake my head, grinning. Then I open a new note on my phone and type 4 words just for me. My dream is mine. Not a communal resource. Not collateral. Not a faucet my family can turn on and off when they are thirsty. Mine. The wind picks up, rustling the leaves in the trees like applause. For a long time, I believed protecting myself would mean losing them. That if I drew hard lines, the people on the other side would just vanish, or call me cold, or replace me with someone more accommodating. Some did pull away a little. Aunt Lena stopped asking me for just a little help with her pyramid scheme. My cousin's boyfriend unfollowed me on Instagram after I told him I wouldn't design his brand for exposure. The family group chat got quieter every time I posted a meme about boundaries. But the people who stayed? They're learning with me. Halting, messy, imperfect, my parents pausing to ask, is this okay? Before assuming. Rafa showing me his boring bank statements like trophies. No overdrafts, no new credit cards, just slow, unsexy progress. I'm not my family's safety net anymore. I'm my own foundation. In front of me, the road leading back to the city curves away, disappearing between the trees. For once, it doesn't feel like something I have to outrun or brace against. It feels like an invitation. I pack up my gear, check twice that everything's back in its case, then slide into the driver's seat. The engine hums to life, not a roar like a Challenger, but a steady, reliable sound that says, I'll get you where you're going if you keep putting in the gas. I pull onto the road, windows down, the late afternoon sun turning the asphalt gold. I haven't destroyed my family. I've just changed the rules of how we exist together. And for the first time in a long time, the horizon ahead of me doesn't look like a finish line I'm crawling toward on bleeding knees. It looks like space. Open wide mine.